Welcome to a brand new CornNation Overreaction Revisited. I'm your host, Greg Mahochko. Hey, look at that. I've only got a very small amount of bandage over that.
Hey!
The broadcast buddy and my good friend, Mr. Hosser. How are you, brother?
I don't know why I just threw the bones. It just felt right. Well, we are talking about the best defensive performance we had last year, so
maybe that's why.
For something. Yeah, black shirt.
A little preemptive goodness and dare I say a sign of things to come for 2024.
I think so. But to answer your question first and foremost, I am doing good minus two things. One, I got a pulled muscle in my neck that I feel like I have to turn, like my whole body. If someone were to be like, hey Hoss, I'd be like, yes. Yeah.
You have to Michael Keaton Batman it. You can't turn your neck.
Like that hurts too much. And like falling asleep tonight's gonna be a blast, Yeah. And then the other thing is I'm sitting here in my hometown, in the town in which I reside, which I'm sure I've said it before on the podcast. I don't know why I'm being so, mysterious. But
you're home of the blanks.
Fireworks are just going off all around me. And you know what? I'm an MFA, okay? A mighty fine American. I pay my taxes. I believe in things about this country. To quote the opening scene of The Godfather, I believe in America. But I hate fireworks. I hate fireworks, man. I can't stand them. I can't do it anymore. I'm just like, I'm sitting here tonight and I'm actually watching I got an old college football game on YouTube pulled up. Oddly enough, 2004 Oklahoma K-State. I want to see a few things that K-State was doing with the spread option that year. And every firework that goes off, I just think, I'm like, 2 more days. And like the day of, I'm not going to care. On 4th of July, I'm not going to care. Like, I'm not that much.
That's the day.
Grinch. But leading up to it, I'm like, I just want to sleep. And I don't want to sleep. I don't want to be like trying to fall asleep and it feels like I'm in a foxhole in the Da Nang Valley in 1969. Okay.
So I don't disagree. We recorded last week and it was before Thursday. I know that it was like Tuesday or Wednesday night when we recorded last week's episode. And I texted a friend of the show, Josh, and I said, hey man, on Thursday, I said, hey, Five Hearts about to start in like a half hour. He's like, oh, I might be late. We're doing fireworks. I'm like, sir, it's June.
Josh.
And he says something like, I'm American and I celebrate freedom, some ridiculous thing. But here's the thing. Take what your disdain for fireworks on days other than July 4th, and then add 3 children, 2 of which are 3 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's that constant fear because when I'm not doing and my chair, which I'm pointing to, it's through the walls, it's in the front room, it faces the television, but it's right underneath their room. So like neighbors in my neighborhood, we live in an HOA, which is unfortunate. I don't like HOAs, but you would think that they're
very anti-American.
Oh my God. Well, you would think that, like, if they're going to say, hey, if you have a fence, it has to be white, like a white picket fence or white. If it's wooden, you have to paint it, or you can use like the white vinyl fencing. But you would think that there would be some wording in that HOA agreement about not shooting out fireworks. And again, I'm not anti-fire. I love a good fireworks display.
Yeah, on the 4th of July.
And maybe I'll cut the video in because when we record it, we have the ability to do that. But when I took the family to Disney World last year, and I'm holding Rob, and we're at Epcot, and my organization paid for like front row, like desserts and front row viewing spot for the end of the evening fireworks display. And I'm holding Rob right here, and I'm shooting with my phone. I'm not shooting the firework display. I'm shooting his reactions. Hoss, when you go back and watch this video, go about to the 5 or so minute mark, because I'm going to put it in there. core memory for me is watching him enjoy the fireworks. But I don't need it in my neighborhood at 10:30 at night or 11 o'clock or 12 at midnight. I don't need it then.
I think what you just described in terms of fireworks is more than appropriate. Like, I think that's awesome. Like a good fireworks show at an event, but when you're inside your domicile, you're trying to fall asleep and you got kids, dogs, like that. It's like, what the hell? Like, come on, like,
get a grip, people.
Yeah. But for those of our listeners who like to light off fireworks, keep being an MFA. Mighty Fine American.
And while you're doing that, maybe, who knows? Maybe you're listening to patriotic music. Maybe you're and this episode right now. I think John Philip Sousa, we could probably get through. Like it's not trademark, but I can't remember. It's open. Yeah, but it's like it's open. Whatever. Anyway, I'm not going to put any like big band music beneath this, but maybe you're going to listen to this show talk about the fireworks we saw last year in Lincoln on October 28th against Purdue. 86,709 people went through the turnstiles and saw Nebraska get its 5th victory of the season and hand Purdue its 6th loss of the season. En route to a 31-14 Nebraska W. It would be Nebraska's last win of the year, but we're here to talk about all the good things, a few of the bad things, and why we're still optimistic. Not like Haas is even keel. You know me. If you've been around CornNation podcasts or YouTube long enough, you know that, brother, I drink that Kool-Aid, but Haas is much more rational. Why is Haas optimistic, cautiously optimistic heading into 2024? A lot of it we discussed last week hinges on that goal line stand in the first drive of the Illinois game, that Nebraska won on the road on that Friday night. And Haas, you said, and I didn't. Again, we've talked about Northwestern, we talked about Illinois. We're not here to dwell or rehash, but for maybe people who are tuning in for the first time, what was so important about the defense making that goal line stand against Illinois and how it changed the entire outlook for the remainder of that 2023 season and going into the offseason?
Well, what it did is I think it provided us with a little bit of confidence, a little bit of real-time feedback that the process that Matt Rule and Tony White were preaching to the defense was working. It's hard to really buy into incremental improvement when you're not seeing any, incremental improvement. But when a play like that happens or something that's really big that can totally shape the outcome of a game, those things can kind of take on a little bit of momentum as an athlete or a unit on the team carries that kind of self-efficacy forward with them. And so what we saw after that goal line stand against Illinois kind of culminated with another really good defensive effort against Northwestern. And then that led to, against Purdue, what I think is the best defensive effort that we had all season. That was a game where Purdue only had 195 yards of total offense. They didn't even have 100 yards passing. They finished with 99 yards passing, 96 yards rushing. And this game was, in retrospect, it was really kind of the pinnacle of our season. I think that it was probably the most complete game that we played when taking into account who we're playing. I think, some people might say, well, what about Northern Illinois or what about Louisiana Tech? No, those weren't the complete games, when you look at what the caliber of the opponent was. But in this game, we had a little bit of everything. We had big plays. We had defensive scores. We had rushing touchdowns. We had a nice sustained drive. And then we also had, a fumble on the opening kickoff that really, it's apropos for Halloween weekend last year. It's welcome to Fright Night because that's what this game really kind of felt like. But to bring that why we're here tonight and what you were talking about, the optimistic for 2024 together. I think that when you look at this defense, if the defense replicates in 24 what it did in 23, and it has an offense that can actually generate points and yards and time of possession and take some pressure off them, you're looking at this defense being even better in 24 because they're going to be able to play without fear of, that margin for error being razor thin.
One of the things that I don't think we've talked about much when we revisit is, and I'm trying to find, I'd like to be able to find a year-to-year comparison, but all I can find is the 2023 numbers. But that's penalties.
Yeah.
Penalties were down significantly in the first year under Matt Rule compared to whatever you want to call 2022.
Well, yeah, I mean, and you're looking at games last year where we committed only 1 or 2 penalties. The Maryland game comes to mind.
Mm-hmm.
That we rarely committed penalties in that game and down the stretch. There was a little bit of an issue early on in the season where we had a lot of procedural type issues, mental mistakes, and mental mistakes are always going to be the killers. You can get by with effort penalties. Holding is an effort penalty. Roughing the passer, you hate to see it, tack on or extended drive, but it's an effort penalty. But what you can't abide is the mental mistakes, and those were really cut down. I know there were more than one false start penalty last year, but the one that really comes to mind is Ethan Piper's on the 1-yard line against Minnesota. But other than that, it wasn't a whole lot of procedural issues that really killed us. Like not getting lined up, not having 7 men on the line of scrimmage, not being set before the ball is snapped after a shift, things like that. And I think that's a hallmark of playing disciplined football. The next piece of that is taking down the turnovers from minus 17 to what Matt Rule said in his interview with Joel Klatt today, which if you haven't listened to it yet, I highly recommend that you go listen to Matt Rule's conversation with Joel Klatt, where he said if we are +7 in the turnover margin, that we are going to be a very dangerous football team, that we should find ourselves in the college football playoff mix in the month of November.
Hoss, I have to apologize to you. I have to apologize to the viewers and the listeners. It's all about perception. When Rome is burning, you think that every negative outcome of every play is one more marble statue falling to the ground.
Okay.
When Rome is being rebuilt, you accept that certain things need to be repositioned. So I was able to find the 2022 stats for penalties. Again, Nebraska in 2023 had, as a team for the season, 61 penalties for 513 yards, an average of 42.8 yards per game in penalties in Matt Rule's first year. In the end of the Scott Frost era, Mickey Joseph era, 2022, again, 2023 was 61 penalties for 513 yards. In 2022, 65 penalties for 510 yards. So a few more penalties, a few less yards, averages out to exactly 42 yards per game.
I'd be curious to know the distribution of the penalties in 2023. Because I'm willing to bet that a majority of them probably fall within that first month of the season.
For 23, you said?
Yeah, for 23.
I don't know if I can find it quickly.
No, I'm not asking you. I'm not asking you to. But no, let's get talking about the Purdue game.
All right, let's do that. You talked about how strong the defense was. Again, 195 total yards on 62 plays for Purdue, which meant they averaged 3.1 yards per game. On the Nebraska side of things, 277 yards on 59 plays, 4.7 yards per play. Gosh dang. Turnovers continue to beat the shit out. 5 fumbles, losing 4 of them did Nebraska.
And the crazy thing is about this,
just want to bash your head in with a hammer at this point.
So you go up 7-0 on the Fedoni touchdown catch in, early-ish quarter 2 after a nice sustained drive. I think it might have been 15, 16 play drive. You follow that up a couple minutes later with the 73-yard touchdown pass to Jalen Lloyd. And then, so you're up 14-0 at halftime, and then you get the blocked field goal for a touchdown. Elijah Judy got a paw on it, and Quentin Newsom ran it back. And so you're up, and then Alvano chips on a field goal. Very difficult field goal.
24-0.
So you're up 24
in the fourth quarter.
In the fourth quarter. So this is where, with it being Halloween weekend, again, I'm going to reference the Welcome to Fright Night.
Yeah.
Heinrich Harburg in this game, he had 22 yards on 19 carries.
Not a good line.
Not a good line. Not great, Bob. And so what ended up happening was this is really the game where the physical toll piled up on Harburg. And this game is even in a win, it kind of represents maybe a Pyrrhic victory for the remainder of the season. That Michigan State game may have actually been lost more so on October 28th than November 4th, just because of the toll that this game took on Harburg. And, those injuries, the rib issues, possible concussion issues, that really took away the fastball, his fastball, his ability to run through, and around defenders. And so you're up 24-0. And then what happens? Go ahead real quick.
Well, I was just going to, again, and I know, he had 35 yards loss, so he netted 22, 19 carries. Some of them, again, I'm sure were just being sacked, but 19 carries. Emmett Johnson had 13 carries for 76 yards, was not brought down behind the line of scrimmage at all, had a touchdown, reeled off a 28-yard run. He should be the guy getting 19 carries.
This was the game that I started really wanting more carries for Emmett Johnson. And this is the game, too, that I don't know if I said this on our Overreaction podcast, but I talked about how I wanted us to line up in the pistol more often to give Emmett Johnson that north-south, crease. Your quarterback, you don't want your quarterback carrying the ball 19 times.
And then you wonder why he was beat to shit against Michigan State.
Exactly. That's why I always get back to, I think we kind of lost that Michigan State game on this day, for what it meant moving forward. So we're up 24-0, and then you have the box score play,
brother, you tell me what you need, and I've got you.
What was the first touchdown for Purdue in the game? Was it the fumble return, or was it a Hudson Card touchdown pass?
Right idea, wrong tab. My apologies.
All good.
All right, so their first score was the 29-yard touchdown pass, Dixon Veal from Card.
They went for 2, right, on that one?
And failed, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you're looking at 24-6 right there. So 24-6 ball game, you should be feeling good. But then at this point, we're struggling to run the football. Purdue had a really strong defensive front in this game. Their edge players were very, very active in this game, and they recovered a Heinrich Harburg fumble and ran it back to make it 24-14. I remember at this point in the game, it felt like we were going to, F around and, find a way to lose the game, they were going to come storming back. But really, it was a bit of a, kind of misleading. The stats were a little misleading in this game. We pitched a shutout defensively for 51 minutes in this game. Purdue, our defense only gave up 6 points. The other 8 points, that's really solely on, the offense turning the football over.
Yep.
And so when you look at that, 96 rushing yards, 99 passing yards, and only giving up 6 points, this was just a dominant performance. The only caveat that I'll have to say, and I don't think it really changes much because of how solid we were against the run and the pass last year, but I was very surprised by Purdue's lack of run game in this game. Specifically, Devin Mockabee in 2022 ran for a shit ton of yards against Nebraska. I believe he ran for about 197 yards in the 2022 game. This game, he had 7 carries for 42 yards. And with a big back like that, I just kind of thought with how the weather was that day in Lincoln, it was cold, it was windy, there were some snow flurries. I would have thought Purdue maybe would have tried to run the football a little bit more. But, hey, Graham Harrell is their offensive coordinator, and air raid offensive coordinators are always going to do
all day long
exactly what is the opposite of what makes sense.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, this game, at this point of the season, I think I touched upon it last week a little bit. After we beat Purdue, that's when it started kind of switching from can we go to a bowl, can we go win the West?
Yep.
You know, it felt tangible. It was right there, you know, reach out and grab it. But there were just a few things still moving forward that we had to, overcome in the 4 weeks remaining in the season. And I think, looking back on it, we all should have kind of known that we were living on borrowed time with our quarterback play, generating yards with Heinrich Haarberg just running people over. So the Heinrich Haarberg, this was the pinnacle of the Heinrich Haarberg experience. That's not an East German pop album from the 60s. Nebraska's quarterback play in 2023.
We kind of glossed over it a little bit, but you talked about how Nebraska's defense pitched a shutout until what, the 51st minute, something like that?
Yep. 9:09 in the fourth quarter this
Okay. Game. All 14 of Purdue's points came off of turnovers.
So really, it's like the defense did pitch a shutout, essentially.
They did their very best. When you look at looking at the fourth quarter, Nebraska was outscored in the fourth quarter 14-10. They had more first downs than Purdue. They weren't trying to pass the ball. I mean, they had 0 passing yards on 2 attempts, but they had 76 yards on the ground. But here's the thing, in the fourth quarter, again, the fourth quarter, the only quarter that Purdue scored, Nebraska had time of possession advantage 10-29 to 4-31.
Damn.
I was trying to find like an aggregate, tell me how much TOP Nebraska actually had. I couldn't find the aggregate, but it's like, they had the interception that, and then they had the fumble. And it's just, oh man. Again, beating the dead horse at this point, but I'll die on the hill that the 2023 Nebraska defense deserved much better.
They deserved to be what they were commensurate to in terms of performance. A division championship winner.
Yes.
And
that's gonna,
yeah, we finished 5-7, but damn, it really was right there for the taking.
I can go back to the Minnesota game when they got away from the run, and I don't want to bring that up because it's still a sore subject for me.
Or I go back to the Colorado game where.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not a conference game, but it'd been one more game towards bowl eligibility.
Mm-hmm.
And if the offense doesn't just do their best impression of a monkey doing something unspeakable to a football, we beat Colorado in that game. Like I said, when we did the Overreaction Revisited, it was a great game plan that the offensive staff had. Line up in condensed formations. Make Colorado play football inside of a phone booth, displace the line of scrimmage, pull linemen, wrap, players to the second level to kick out and seal. And, it worked. We marched the ball. We really marched the ball. I don't want to say between the 20s because, we only scored 14 points. But really, we marched the ball kind of between the 30s. Really well in that game. We had big plays. We were able to generate yards on the ground. And so that defense deserved to win that Colorado game. And even though it was 36-14, that game, I don't put that on the defense. They held in there as long as they could until the dam just burst.
I was able to find the cumulative time of possession for this Purdue game. And I mean, oddly enough, I guess you could say thank God for the fourth quarter, because otherwise the numbers would be skewed very differently. But in this game, Nebraska had possession 33 minutes and 10 seconds. Really, I mean, and the third quarter was an inverse of the fourth quarter, where in the third quarter, Purdue had possession 9 minutes and 13 seconds compared to 5:47 of Nebraska. Nebraska had about a 2-minute advantage in each quarter of the first half, but still, I mean, it wasn't. I mean, when you look at that fourth quarter again, the job that the defense did, you almost make you wonder that if Nebraska wouldn't have turned the ball over, given Purdue favorable spots, given them the touchdown, if they would have just been able to punt the ball away, you got to think.
Probably ends in a shutout.
Right.
Yeah, I think it does end in a shutout. And I was also going to say, if we start leaning on Emmett Johnson in the traditional tailback run game a little earlier in that fourth quarter, he had that touchdown at the end to salt the game away to make it 31-14.
That was a 28-yard run.
Who's to say that this game doesn't end 31-zip, 38-zip? If we're committed to running the ball with the tailback there at the end. So this game, lot to love from this game. This game is probably, out of all the wins last year, this one's my favorite win, because Purdue's kind of had our number, over the past 5 years.
Well, in the Jeff Brom era.
Yeah, Jeff Brom era. Which I've always been a big Jeff Brom guy.
I know.
One of my favorite coaches in the country. At first, I was like, oh, damn, he's leaving the Big Ten, And then I was like, fuck, this means that we'll finally quit losing to Purdue. This is good, Because, it was one of those things where I wanted Brom to have success in any game unless it was playing Nebraska.
Sure.
That was the game where I'm like, yeah, F you, Jeff Brom. But I just got so sick of I admire the guy as a play caller, puts together great game plans. He's really good with quarterback development. And just watching what he would do to Nebraska was just infuriating. Absolutely infuriating. David Blau being an absolute superstar against Nebraska.
Yeah, that's
turning Aiden O'Connell into an NFL quarterback and throwing for God knows how many yards against us in 2022. So yeah, it's a love-hate relationship with Jeff Brom.
Respect him, but you never, ever, 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 ever want to lose to him.
No, he's kind of a douche,
I don't know him that well.
No, I mean,
I don't follow his interviews and things like that.
You can observe him on the sideline. Watch him on the sideline. Catch a Louisville game this year.
I don't know if I got that kind of time.
It's called College Football Saturday, Greg.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of, so people are hearing this on Friday. This is when we drop it. By the way, if you're watching this right when it drops at 6:00, don't forget that we're doing the 5 Heart Podcast tonight. Friday night, because you usually do it on Thursdays, but that's the 4th of July, and as we discussed earlier, people are going to try to not lose fingers with the fireworks, etc. But
you don't need another injury.
No, yeah, that's fun. At least the stitches are out now. But Fridays, again, people are listening to this, and the night of the 5 Heart is also my birthday, and so my wife picked up our oldest from his summer camp. We're recording this on Tuesday night, so Monday, and that her routine is pick up the kids, call me, and she says to him from the back of the vehicle, "All right, ask Dad the question." So he's like, "Dad, what do you want for your birthday?" And I said, "Well, I don't know how feasible or practical it is, but kind of want some Nebraska-Colorado tickets." Then I started looking at them online today, and the resale. They're all in resale right now.
Insanity.
So I'm not saying it's not happening. I'm just saying I'm going to have to go out and, protect some more families in my charge through the fine financial products that my organization offers.
I thought you were going to say, like, you might have to go out there and, like, donate plasma or something.
I mean, I'll do that for free.
Plasma, not blood.
Same thing, right?
No, plasma you get paid for.
Oh. I mean, I'd do it for free. Like, I got my driver's license renewed, and I was telling my boy about it. I said, yeah, I'm an organ donor. He's like, what? I said, yeah. If I'm dead and they can still use something, that let somebody use it, it might save their life. He's like, that's weird, Dad. I'm not going to do that. I said, you say that. But, yeah, take whatever the hell they need. I don't give a shit.
All the cool people are organ donors.
You, me, and I was going to say some celebrity, but I don't know for sure if.
Yeah, I'm an organ donor. Like,
of course you are.
If I don't need it, yeah, hell yeah.
The hell am I going to do with my
I just
liver?
don't want to be cremated, You
don't want to be cremated?
No.
Yeah.
I want a patch of ground.
Might be the only dirt you ever own, Hoss.
Exactly. I was born in 1990, so yeah, I came in at the end.
Oh man, what else about the? I mean, do we have anything else about Purdue?
Nothing about the Purdue game. We covered it, pretty well.
Well, we couldn't do it without you, Huss, because you bring the X's and O's, and I bring the Jimmies and Joes, and I don't know, that went off the rails quickly, but but it's always great to catch up with you, my friend, and I look forward to visiting with you next week when we're going to talk about Michigan State.
I was there.
Yeah. So
can I do a little like side review of the town of East Lansing too?
Yeah, because I know it's going to be brutal.
Oh yeah.
We'll have the show inside the show.
Oh yeah.
Next week when we do revisit the Michigan State Spartan game, right here on CornNation Overreaction Revisits. For my good friend and broadcast buddy, Mr. Hossreuter, I'm Greg Mahochko. This is CornNation Overreaction Revisits, and we say tonight, we say tomorrow, we say forever, go Big Red. Hoss.
If you play on ice, you're going to harvest the wind.